we have some bad news
And some good news.
and some good news.
The courtroom was heavy with silence, the kind that didn't just settle in the air but seemed to press down on every chest, forcing shallow breaths. The steady tick of the old clock above the judge's bench was the only sound, each second stretching into eternity. Then a voice broke through, not timid, not trembling, but thunderous. It was Meri Brown. She rose from the plaintiff's table with deliberate calm. Her stance was authoritative, her jaw locked, her usually warm eyes blazing with anger and truth. Once those eyes had looked at Kody with affection, now they sliced through him like steel. "You presented yourself as a man of faith, a man of family," she said, her voice echoing off the courtroom walls. "But behind closed doors, you were neither." The room shifted. Even in the back row, people leaned forward, their eyes wide. This wasn't just testimony, this was an unmasking. The judge's gaze narrowed, watching closely as Meri thumped a thick binder of evidence on the table. "I was quiet for too long," Meri continued. "I let him lie, manipulate, and shift blame for years. But today I speak. Today the truth rises higher than his ego." The words hit like a grenade. The judge leaned forward. Kody whispered frantically to his lawyer, sweat forming on his brow. Meri opened the binder and flipped through page after page of receipts, bank statements, and screenshots. Her voice grew sharper with every line. "He told us we were one family, one heart. But while we clipped coupons to feed our kids, Robyn was buying $1,000 furniture sets week after week. The joint account wasn't shared at all. It was Kody and Robyn's personal bank of indulgence." Gasps echoed around the courtroom. Even the stenographer's fingers hesitated on the keys. Kody shot to his feet. "That's not right." They all understood the judge's gavel cracked like thunder. "Mr. Brown, you will keep quiet until instructed." Kody sat down hard, his face red, his carefully crafted confidence slipping like a mask on melting wax. Meri's voice softened, but the edge of pain was sharper than ever. "You erased me in my own marriage. I was invisible, living in silence while you paraded into Robyn's home laughing, smiling, pretending everything was perfect. To me, you've brought only ice. Do you know what it is like to be erased by the man you built a family with?" The room went still. Even Robyn shifted uncomfortably, her eyes downcast. "This wasn't drama," Meri said, voice breaking. "It was gaslighting." The next blow was financial. She revealed graphs, projections, and breakdowns of book contracts, TLC profits. Merchandise, sales all allegedly promised to be shared equally among the wives. "But the math doesn't lie," Meri said coldly. "Robyn and Kody took 70%. The rest of us shared 20%. 20%. The judge's eyebrows shot up. The crowd gasped again. Kody's head sank into his hands. "You didn't just betray your vows," Meri concluded. "You betrayed your office as a leader. You used faith as cover, family as leverage, and money as your weapon. But today, I'm taking it all back." She turned fully toward him, her words cutting through the air like a knife. "You didn't leave me, Kody. You abandoned your honor. And I'm burying your lies with it." The silence that followed was crushing. For a moment, no one moved, not even the judge. Then, almost reluctantly, the gavel sounded for a short recess. Robyn's breakdown. When the court reconvened, it was Robyn Brown's turn to take the stand. She looked pale, her hands trembling, lips pressed tight. Years of carefully groomed poise were gone. She was unraveling. "Mrs. Brown," the attorney began, "did you know money was transferred from the joint family account to your personal account?" Robyn's eyes flicked to Kody, then fell to the floor. "I thought we had a deal. Kody took care of it. I didn't. I didn't keep the books." The attorney pressed, showing her signed deposit records, receipts, direct transfers, her name written across them. Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I didn't know it was this bad," she whispered. The judge leaned forward, voice hard. "Mrs. Brown, are you saying you received over $150,000 in additional benefits in just 2 years and never questioned it?" "I thought it was for the kids," she cried. "For school, clothes, the house. I trusted him. Her sobs grew heavier, echoing across the courtroom. I didn't ask for this. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. The once composed favorite wife was gone, undone before everyone's eyes. He told me the others didn't need it. She confessed through tears that Meri had her business, that Christine was leaving anyway, that Janelle didn't care. I believed him. But you lied to me too, Kody? The room froze. Kody's eyes widened, panic flashing as he mouthed, "Don't do this." But Robyn did. "You said I was the glue, but I wasn't. I was your excuse. You used me to justify turning your back on everyone else." The courtroom erupted in whispers. Kody stood again, desperate. "Robyn, don't spin this." The gavel cracked. "Mr. Brown, sit down." Robyn broke completely, sobbing into her hands. "I didn't know I was the villain. I thought I was helping. But now I see I was part of the problem." Meri sat silent, her face unreadable. Christine's glare was ice. Janelle turned away in disgust. The tide had shifted. Even Kody's supporters in the back shook their heads. The judge's final blow as the session resumed. Judge Harold M. Halbrook shuffled his papers with deliberate calm, his robe folding around him like stone. His face carried no compassion, no warmth, only the cold weight of authority. "Mr. Brown," the judge said, his voice low but thunderous, "what we have here is not merely the breakdown of a marriage. What we have is evidence. Substantial, compelling evidence of financial fraud, manipulation, and breach of fiduciary duty." The word fraud hung heavy in the air. Kody's face drained of color. Between January 2020 and March 2023, the judge continued, $273,000 was diverted from the Brown family's joint account into a private business account under your sole control. These funds were used exclusively for the benefit of one wife, Robyn Brown, and her children. Meanwhile, the other wives collectively received less than 25% of the income. Gasps filled the room again. Robyn looked stunned, her mascara streaking down her cheeks. "This," Judge Halbrook declared, slamming his gavel once, "is not leadership. This is coercion." He leaned forward, eyes boring into Kody's. "For years you portrayed yourself as a man of unity, of faith, of family. But your bank accounts tell another story. And today, Mr. Brown, this court will listen to the truth, not your script." The gavel fell again. And with it, Kody Brown's empire shattered. And with it, Kody Brown's empire shattered.
I don't know what to say to her. I can't tell.
The courtroom carried a silence so heavy it felt alive, pressing against every wall, every seat, every breath. It was not the kind of silence that comes from peace, but the kind that comes from anticipation, when truth and consequence are about to collide. At the defendant's table sat Kody Brown, the once proud patriarch of a sprawling family empire that had played out for years on television screens across America. But today, there were no cameras, no scripted confessions, no chance to spin a storyline into something digestible for fans. Today, there was only the law, the record, and the weight of everything he had tried to control now turning against him. His jaw was set, but the tremor in his hands betrayed him. His eyes darted to the judge, to the lawyers, to the women who once defined his world. Christine, Janelle, Meri, and even Robyn sat together, though not as a united front of sister wives anymore. Their bond had fractured long ago, but today they were bound by something: new truth, justice, and the hope of closure. Their expressions told stories words could not. Christine's eyes burned with resolve, a fire lit years ago when she had finally walked away from Kody's control. She sat upright, composed, but her steady breathing carried the rhythm of someone who had waited too long for this moment. Beside her, Janelle leaned forward, her arms folded tight across her chest, her gaze fixed on Kody with the steady force of steel. This was not hatred, but clarity, the kind of resolve born after decades of compromise and patience, now finally broken. Meri's expression shifted between bitterness and vindication. Her lips pressed into a line that barely concealed satisfaction. And then there was Robyn, pale, tense, her loyalty visibly faltering in the harsh light of reality. Once Kody's greatest ally, she now looked like a woman trapped between fear and resignation. The judge presiding over the case was stern. Unyielding, her face carved from stone, her eyes sharper than the gavel she would eventually bring down. She began reading the charges, her voice echoing through the room like iron striking iron. Each word landed with weight. Allegations of mismanagement, deception, financial manipulation, and the reckless pursuit of power at the expense of family. For years, Kody had painted himself as the visionary, the man who held together an impossible dream of plural marriage. But in the courtroom, stripped of lights and editing, that dream was being dismantled piece by piece. The accusations were not about faith or plural love. They were about betrayal and broken trust. The story of Coyote Pass, once promised as the family's future, was now on trial. The sprawling land, purchased with the sacrifices of the women seated across from Kody, had become a symbol of everything wrong with the empire he built. For Christine, Janelle, and Meri, it was not just land, it was a reminder of their dashed hopes and empty promises. And for Robyn, the silence she kept now screamed louder than anything she could say. Kody tried to resist the tide. His voice broke into the silence, louder than necessary, his words trembling as if volume could mask weakness. "This is not what it looks like," he insisted, slamming his hands against the table. His eyes moved rapidly from face to face, desperate for someone to meet his gaze with support. "They don't understand what it takes to keep a family like this together. I don't know the sacrifices I've made." The judge's gavel cracked against the block, the sharp sound slicing through his outburst. "Mr. Brown," she said firmly, her voice unwavering, "you will refrain from emotional outbursts. This is not a reality show. This is a court of law." The sting of those words was unmistakable. For years, Kody had thrived on spectacle, weaving narratives for television audiences, twisting moments of pain into entertainment, always maintaining control of the script. But here, none of that mattered. There were no cameras, no producers, no editors ready to soften his image. Here, there was only evidence. Christine's lawyer rose with quiet precision, the shuffle of papers sounding almost ceremonial. She approached the bench with a calm confidence that filled the air with more weight than any shouting ever could. Her voice was measured, her argument sharp. "Your Honor," she began, laying out documents and timelines like carefully arranged dominoes. "This case is not about plural marriage or religious choice. This is about accountability. Mr. Brown misused family funds, diverted money, and left these women as partners. His supposed equals with nothing but empty promises tied to Coyote Pass." As she spoke, each detail unfolded like a blade carving away at the fragile image Kody had tried to maintain. Bank statements, contracts, communications, every piece of evidence stacked into an undeniable mountain. He built his empire on their sacrifices, she concluded, her tone unwavering, and when that empire collapsed, he left them with nothing but loss. The room stirred. Murmurs rippled among the few observers, each word sinking deeper into Kody's unraveling defenses. He shifted uncomfortably, sweat collecting at his temple, his fingers drumming against the table as if searching for control he no longer had. His eyes flicked toward Christine, who sat with unflinching calm, then to Janelle, whose steady glare pierced through him like ice. The judge leaned forward slightly, her face unreadable, but her authority unmistakable. "Mr. Brown, before I deliver this court's ruling, you may speak on your own behalf." Kody rose quickly, his chair scraping across the floor with a screech that cut through the tension. He began to speak in a rush, words spilling out faster than reason could catch them. He spoke of faith, of unity, of a dream that had once been bigger than himself. He painted pictures of sacrifice and vision, of carrying the burden of a plural family in a world that did not understand. But the more he spoke, the clearer it became. This was not about faith or vision. This was about control. Each desperate plea revealed a man terrified of losing the power he had clung to for decades. When he finally stopped, his chest heaving, the silence that followed was heavier than ever. The judge regarded him for a long moment before lifting the gavel. Her words fell with the weight of finality. This court finds in favor of the plaintiffs. The property known as Coyote Pass will be sold. The proceeds will be divided accordingly. Furthermore, Mr. Brown will be held accountable for financial misconduct. This case is closed. The gavel struck, and with it, the last piece of Kody's empire shattered. Christine exhaled slowly, a breath that seemed to carry years of silent endurance. Janelle's lips curved into a faint smile, her relief subtle but unmistakable. Meri's eyes glistened, a flicker of long-awaited justice shining through. Even Robyn lowered her head, her face pale, her silence finally breaking into tears that slid down without resistance. The sister wives' empire, once built on the illusion of unity, had fallen apart in the place where illusions could not survive. Kody Brown stood frozen, as if the floor beneath him had given way. His authority was gone. His legacy rewritten. What had once been a family dynasty celebrated and scrutinized by millions was now nothing more than a cautionary tale, a crumbling empire laid bare in a courtroom that offered no sympathy. Outside, as news of the ruling spread, the world erupted with questions. Fans, critics, and onlookers debated the meaning of justice, of betrayal, of this strange empire that had lived so long in the spotlight. Was this the final chapter of the Brown family saga, or merely the beginning of an even greater collapse? For Christine, Janelle, and Meri, it was a victory long overdue. For Robyn, it was a reckoning she had never imagined. And for Kody Brown, it was the meltdown of a lifetime, the moment when the story he had always controlled finally slipped out of his hands and became something far more powerful than he could ever contain. The courtroom emptied.